Hi guys, this is Jill from Cheap Thrills, and I just wanted to do a little video update today. Mike and I are always doing stuff, and I still sometimes forget to film it all, so I thought I would just do a mashup of all the extra or miscellaneous things we did this month that we may have referred to in other videos. Starting out, we actually had to do some extensive work on the Eldorado that we had been putting off. Unfortunately, I didn't capture it on camera, but we were starting to find metal shavings in the oil pan, and eventually had to take apart the bottom end. We found out that after several years, one of the rod bearings was starting to wear down pretty badly, so we went ahead and replaced all of those and the rod bolts. You can see in the pictures that I am holding up one of the bigger pieces of debris, so I'm really glad that we were able to catch that before anything too serious happened. Racing definitely puts a lot of wear on these items over time, so it's something we'll generally have to keep an eye on. We also decided to replace all the engine and transmission mounts after one wore down and failed in the last race. Mike actually had to fill it back in with a bolt and a piece of wood, which somehow worked. We also updated the cooling system with a much bigger transmission cooler. Now that we have to compete in a higher class, we are running it even harder than we had been, and the transmission temps get too hot. We scavenged a large cooler from a Ford Expedition at a local junkyard, which is actually a pretty rare find. Not many of those end up there. Anyway, you can see how much bigger the quote-unquote new one is to the old one, which ended up where it ultimately belonged. And of course, the most important changes were to make it look cooler. Good thing you kept that McDonald's bag.
I know. Comes in clutch. Obviously it looks better.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think.
In our previous video, you may have seen us talk about some of the cooling upgrades we did to the XLR, including the thicker radiator we found on eBay. This radiator was made for a C6 Corvette, and while the XLR was built on the same chassis, the radiator had an extra out for a coolant hose that the XLR did not have. So we hooked it up temporarily to the out for the overflow bottle in order to test the radiator. Ultimately, you don't want to have the overflow unable to, well, overflow, so Mike made another entry for the hose in a lower spot on the bottle, which we were testing here. There is also an issue with possibly the throttle body, or something else, which causes the XLR to idle roughly and sometimes go into reduced power mode, or even shut off on startup. We will have to do some investigating on this later. I also just took a minute to admire the XLR after being covered up all winter. I mean, what a sound. I don't know if this is even worth mentioning, but Mike is doing a tune-up and repairing the power steering for a friend's elderly mother on her 90s Cutlass Supreme. It just looks like something out of its time and totally nostalgic. And before I go, I thought I would show you us starting and revving the C3 Corvette for the first couple times this year.
Okay.
Startin the '78 Corvette after its winter hibernation.